Welcome back to Matrix Fall. In our previous videos, we discussed the expansion of the shadow government and how various rogue and corrupt military generals and politicians secretly made deals with extraterrestrials for technology trades and to build deep underground military bases so humans and aliens can secretly work together, away from the eyes of the public and even the President of the United States. As years went by, the shadow government managed to create their own military we know today as super soldiers. Soldiers who work on classified operations within the shadow government on top-secret off-the-books black operations or black ops. These super soldiers, men that already come from the military, are trained in secret. With advanced cybernetics technology, implanted mind-body enhancement technology, and even creating psychic, clairvoyant, and telekinesis skills the soldiers would learn and use in upcoming conflicts, possibly with off-world beings. In this story, we will be discussing a secret, off-the-books, black operation administered by the shadow government and conducted by super soldiers. This story specifically comes from a whistleblower named James Casbolt, also known as Michael Prince. Although his whereabouts today are unknown, several years ago, James Casbolt openly spoke about his activities and operations he went on for the shadow government. James Casbolt provides evidence of himself enlisted in the British military and working directly with MI5 and MI6. But there is little to no evidence backing his wild claims working with aliens and the secret operations he was involved in inside the shadow government. So please, as we do here at Matrix Fall, to come to your own conclusions and take this story and all of our stories here any way you want. We don't necessarily believe these stories are true, but they are very interesting stories we believe more people should be aware of. We will leave links to James Casbolt's books and interviews below in the description so you can read and study his information for yourself. In James Casbolt's books and interviews, he describes how artificial intelligence is the supreme technology every nation on Earth desires more than anything and are trying their best to perfect. He describes how the shadow government is decades ahead in technological advancements than the surface governments. All technology we use today, the shadow government had decades ago. He explains how every country actually works closer together than the mainstream news would like to share. And most international conflicts are not what they appear to be. Although most governments still compete with each other to varying degrees, they do it in secret and away from the eyes of the public. Most governments work closer together than we think, especially when it comes to keeping real power out of the hands of civilians and giving them lies about world events through their control of mainstream media. For example, Casbolt explains when a UFO is found in Far East Asia or the Middle East, American intelligence agents will be there advising the local government officials on how to keep this information away from the eyes and ears of their civilians. In this story, James Casbolt describes how he and his Black Ops team in the mid-1980s were quickly assigned to the jungles of Central America to a UFO crash site, where several extraterrestrials within the ship had left the ship and disappeared into the jungles of Central America. Casbolt says he and his team were assigned to go there, find, abstract, or kill these creatures and bring their bodies to the Central American headquarters, located in an underground military base. In the mid-1980s, James Casbolt and his Black Ops team were sent on an emergency kill capture mission in the jungles of Central America after their local government discovered a crashed UFO. James Casbolt and his team were told very little about their objective, only that they needed to find and abstract the alien creatures that escaped into the tropical jungles. When Casbolt and his team arrived, they met with the local military that advised them on the direction the creatures may have gone. Casbolt advised the military to not get involved in any way. Their team has many years of experience doing this type of work. But this mission was different. This was the first mission Casbolt was sent on to abstract off-world creatures, even though he had several years of training and practice. Also on this mission, he was assigned team lead. He radioed the command center from his earpiece and asked about the whereabouts and appearance of these creatures, but the command center had no information. Casbolt was advised that he and his team were free to use any and all tactics, strategies, and technology they were trained with to use and find, kill, or capture these beings by any means necessary. Casbolt advised his team they have very little support and were on their own, but were free to use any means they can to locate and capture these creatures. They opened up their advanced tracking equipment. They walked up to the crashed UFO with the local military and found no doors, or any way the creatures could enter or exit the craft. Casbolt asked the local military, "How many creatures are there and how do you know they left the craft?" The local military said, we don't know anything. All we know comes from your people. We were only sent here to guard and quarantine this craft. We have done this many times before. But this is the first time creatures left the ship and are somewhere still here as far as we know. So we have orders to remain here until your job is done. James Casbolt briefly advised his team of 9. He told them to split up into 2 teams of 4, and he would go by himself as they separately tracked down these creatures. Everyone had a radio and earpiece to communicate with each other. James went by himself into a dense area of the forest with many tall, leafy trees. He decided to do something he's never done before while on a mission. He decided to briefly meditate, using the skills he learned to communicate with nature and animals telepathically, along with the RFID chips and advanced technology injected inside of him, used to enhance his tracking capabilities. He tried to reach out with his mind to see if he can locate and communicate with these beings. As he meditated, he began to feel warm inside. Then he began to feel connected to everything in the forest, like he could communicate with all the living creatures directly around him: insects, animals, trees, grass, and plants. He could feel them all breathing, eating, communicating with each other, like he was a part of that ecosystem. Then he saw a vision of 3 reptilian humanoid creatures with cybernetic weapons technology attached to them. They kind of looked like cyborgs. There were 3 of them. He saw in his mind 2 creatures run off and disappeared and couldn't be located, but the other one was still in the area. Casbolt tried to then reach out with his mind to the creature to see if he could find its location. He then felt it. He felt the creature inside his head was not a bad alien. They were creatures that had no bad intent and became lost. He felt the UFO craft never crash-landed. It just landed in a way that appeared like it crashed. James tried to communicate with this creature telepathically, but was not responsive. James felt this creature knew he was being spied on telepathically and felt these creatures were also very psychic. This creature knew it was being spied on and welcomed it. Like a cat and mouse game, James felt this creature wanted to be found and wanted to challenge James and his team. James then felt he might have found the location of the creature, but was very cautious with his next move because the creature also might be tracking James and his team. James radioed his team. He told them to meet up at specific coordinates he gave, but be very cautious. The creature may know it is being tracked and might be tracking them. When they met up, James and his team opened up their tracker compasses. The technology the team used was reserved for top-secret Black Ops operations only. No government or their military had access to this advanced technology James and his team had. James was explaining to his team the possible locations of the creature. Then out of nowhere, one of his soldiers was snatched up and pulled high into the trees. Then another, then the remain of his men pulled out their guns and started firing. One man yelled, "James, we can't see anything." Then James yelled, "Put your weapons down. We may accidentally shoot our own men and we need to find its location." They put on their thermal imaging goggles and immediately saw the creature high up in the trees, jumping across from tree to tree. Then, the creature fired some sort of silent weapon that seemed to electrify 2 of his men. Then it disappeared again. James said, "Put your weapons away. The creature is playing with us. It wants us to find it, but is playing a cat and mouse game. One man said, "What about our men it took down? When I see this creature, I'm taking it down any way I can." James said, "That is fair, but we need more of a strategy. This creature appears to be very smart and knows how to move about in these jungles." James was left with only 3 men, after the creature took out 5 members of his team. James felt this mission was a failure, a mission he was leading, and was thinking about the disciplinary actions he would receive. He said to his men, "We need to stick close together now at this point, but we need to come up with a plan." They all slowly looked around, trying to find the creature with their guns drawn while looking through their thermal goggles. James said, "Let's slowly head back to the landing zone. If you see the creature." It became clear the creature purposely took out all James' men but him. James was now in a losing battle with this mysterious animal. He didn't know exactly what he was up against. Then he saw it. The creature slowly materialized right in front of him. It was using some sort of cloaking device. James looked at it, shocked by its appearance. It looked like a cyborg with electric wires inside of it, with reptile-like skin and glowing eyes with a piercing-looking face that burned into the memory of James. Then the creature slowly disappeared as quickly as it reappeared. James turned back on his thermal goggles to quickly locate it, but did not see it anywhere. Then the creature spoke to James telepathically in his head.
"I know who you are. I know what you're trying to do, and I know you were scanning me. That is where you failed. I only took your men out because you exposed yourself telepathically to me. Let that be a lesson learned."
Then James saw a fast red laser zip past him and strike a tree. James became very cautious and slowly walked through the forest. Then he stopped and closed his eyes to reach back out to the creature with his mind, but the creature gave no response. James lifted his gun and didn't know what his next steps would be. James tried to radio HQ, but the radio was dead. James had no other option but to continue to hunt for this creature on his own. Minutes went by with no visuals, no sounds, and no whereabouts to where the creature went. Then James went back and did the only thing he could do. He went back into his meditation, connected with the forest, feeling all he could and melding with the ecosystem like he did earlier. He visualized the creature slowly walking to him. The visual in his meditation was so real, it felt like the creature was actually there. Then the creature began talking to him telepathically.
"The problem with your people is you have no idea how powerful you are, and how many out there seek to control you and control your world with all its wondrous resources."
Then James visualized pulling the wires he can see out of its body, trying to in some way kill or subdue the creature without gunning it down. He visualized its electrical circuits malfunctioning and the creature just turning off like a machine. James got up from meditating, grabbed his gun with confidence that he knew how he could take this thing down once he found it. Then he saw it, only a few feet in front of him, smoking, and seemed to have turned off, with no movement or sound. Almost as if James literally took this creature down in his head. It reminded him in his training, the teachers told him the power of the mind is far more powerful than any weapon on this earth. James and members of his Black Ops squad were taught in underground military bases that we live in a holographic universe. The physical reality that we see is just a perception of the mind. They were taught that nothing is solid, and everything is just atoms vibrating at specific speeds and giving off a specific frequency. If used correctly, man can manipulate his physical reality. James and his team were taught how to manipulate physical reality so it can be weaponized on the battlefield. James radioed HQ. His radio seemed to work now that the creature was subdued, like it was somehow blocking his communication. James told his commanding officer, "The mission is only partially complete. I managed to take down one of the entities while the others escaped. All my men were taken out." James gave the location of the creature and was ordered to immediately return to HQ. A chopper would pick him up from the designated landing zone. Back at headquarters, James spoke one-on-one with his commanding officer in his office. He explained the mission was a failure from the beginning. His squad was dealing with off-world beings with advanced tech. 2 creatures disappeared and are still missing. The creature they had in custody had weapons built into its body and took out all of their men. He explained he used his psychic abilities taught to him in training. He explained he never knew it would work if that's what happened, although he wasn't sure. He explained it appeared the creature just turned off. His commanding officer said he did a great job even if he doesn't see it. But the meeting wasn't over. James was ordered to wait outside the office. He thought to himself what disciplinary actions he would have to undergo. Then he saw one of his team members walk right up to him like nothing ever happened to him. James looked shocked, like he saw a ghost. James's team member told him, "When this creature captured me, I didn't feel any pain. All I remember is being wrapped up into some green jello-like material. Then I passed out. Then I woke up here in the medical clinic. Nobody has told me anything. I haven't seen anyone else in our team." Then he whispered into James' ear, "James, I think this is just another one of their tests." Then out of nowhere, 3 giant Nordic-looking creatures wearing all blue one-piece synthetic silk-like material clothes, with one of the men wearing a red cape, signifying he was some sort of leader or supervisor. They all walked into the office of James' commanding officer and spoke to him. James looked at his teammate and said, "I think you're right." Then James' commanding officer called him into the office with the Nordic creatures there. James said, "Let's find out what's going on." James walked into the room, and the Nordic creatures appeared to be 8 to 9 feet tall, looking like giants. They said nothing, with an emotionless blank look on their face. James' commanding officer said, "James, you performed so well. These Nordics want you to join them in a special operation. Be proud and excited for what's to come for you." James, looking confused, said, "Wait, what? I don't know these people. Why do I have to go with them?" James' commanding officer interrupted. "We have been working with these good men for years. We have made deals and have alliances with them. Nothing will happen to you, but more high-level training and great experience. Consider yourself extremely lucky. You should be excited. Very few soldiers have been fortunate enough to work with them. You can go." James had no choice. Soldiers in the shadow government, working this deep in black ops, have very little freedom, and the shadow government uses technology to keep their soldiers under their control. James walked out of the office behind the Nordics. One of the Nordics turned around and pulled out a small device like a small handheld pyramid. The Nordic giant then put the handheld tool right in front of James' face. He saw a huge white light, and his mind went blank. James woke up in his bed, in his bunker, the very next day. James was tired and felt like weeks went by. He realized the Nordic aliens whipped his mind, and he will probably never know what transpired. As weeks went by, he discovered through documents he read and talking to soldiers who have had contact with these Nordics, he discovered these Nordics came from the Pleiades star cluster. James explains in his writings, various aspects of the government made deals with a wide variety of extraterrestrial races. For example, the Air Force made deals and work with a specific extraterrestrial race, while the Navy is working with an entirely different extraterrestrial race, and the CIA is working with a different one as well. The alien races would give the government's technology in exchange for humans, mostly through abductions, and most importantly, value our DNA for a variety of reasons. But even though these government institutions are working with different off-world beings, they all come together in making sure the public is not only entirely uninformed, but also under tight control through new laws and financial exploitation. To make sure the public is too busy and given enough lies and misinformation to not even care enough about the subject of UFOs and extraterrestrials. In our next video, we will continue to explore the secret missions of James Casbolt and other super soldiers who became whistleblowers who have told their fascinating stories online and on podcasts about what they witnessed and the operations they went on while working for the shadow government. Until then.